I'm gonna show you the best leg exercises that you're not doing, and we're gonna start right now. Ideally, everybody would be using our Peak Strength app. If you click on the link down in the bio, you can head over to peakstrength.app and pick it up today. Then we would be crushing power snatches, cleans, single leg squats. But there's always some diamonds in the rough that we can give you so that you can keep improving that leg strength. And these are likely the exercises that you aren't actually using. That first exercise, and this is gonna be one of my favorite accessory movements that I like to use when I'm targeting the posterior chain, okay? So one of the keys behind this movement is that we're gonna be in a position where we're a little bit out of position. Okay, so we're in a position where our nervous system's gonna be a little bit more heightened. If our nervous system's a little more heightened, we're gonna recruit a little bit more. It also is gonna require a lot of hip extension because guess what? We're gonna do a single leg. We need to make sure that our balance is on point, and we need to make sure that we're loading this appropriately. We don't wanna be going crazy, crazy heavy right off the bat. That's why we're gonna use rep schemes like 4 sets of 9 on each leg. And that movement is going to be the dumbbell single leg RDL, okay? So the dumbbell single leg RDL will look like this. We're gonna get set, and typically I like to get set bilaterally first. Okay, so I'm here, and then all that's gonna happen is I'm gonna shift slightly to the leg that I'm gonna use. Okay, and I like to think about my toe facing inward, and almost like that thing that you used back in like biology or chemistry back in the day in middle school, that bird that would pluck water out of the thing. I forget what that's called. You're gonna come down and then pull back up, okay? And I actually like to think about pulling from my heel. Pull my hamstring from my heel. And then when I get to the top here, I wanna squeeze through my hamstring into my glute. Back up, and that's gonna help me have a little bit more tension. Now, if I switch sides here, notice I'm just using 30s. I'm starting easy, doing it nice and easy. And again, I wanna make sure that stays stable with my toe in, back up. And you can start to really feel which side has a little bit more of a problem over another. For me, it's always that right side. I'm gonna show you one other exercise. So this is actually a video with 6 exercises, not 5, so maybe we should change the title. But I love to use this to increase my posterior chain, strengthen my hamstrings, improve my dynamic trunk control, improve my hip extension. It's absolutely tremendous. And if you have back problems, it can help alleviate a lot of those back problems. Now, if you're someone whose posterior chain is pretty strong and you don't necessarily need to do dumbbell single leg RDLs, you could do something like this. You could use a box here, and if you're built similar to me, you might need something to really focus more on that anterior sequence, and that is going to be a pistol squat, okay? So I usually use these a little bit interchangeably depending upon the athlete or the individual and what they're working towards with their goals, okay? So if we have someone in general fitness and they just wanna work on their mobility, we actually might use pistol squats if they're able to do them. We'll use different progressions to get to that point. If you want those progressions, comment down below. But otherwise, we'll sort of pick these movements based off of limb length, based off their previous athletic ability and whatever weaknesses they actually have. So pistol squat, we're gonna get set here, okay? Put that leg up, squat, and then drive up through that heel, okay? So this is gonna be much more focused on the quad. Here, boom. And then you can get to a point where you're here and you're actually holding weights. So pick between the single leg RDL or that pistol squat, whatever weakness you have, try to really target that and use 4 sets of 9 on each leg. That second key exercise of our guest right now would be the third key exercise. Again, we gotta remember, these are typically movements that you're probably not doing, and you're not doing them because you've either not been exposed to them, okay? So if you pick up our Peak Strength app, you would be doing some of these exercises, most of these exercises, but otherwise, you might be avoiding them because they're harder, okay? And that's where this next key exercise might come into play. This is a movement that's gonna target your quads quite a bit, okay? It actually will improve also your back strength quite a bit. It also will sort of protect your back, and it'll actually enable you to be able to put more weight on the bar relative to some other exercises while still keeping it relatively safe for your back. So that's one of the best aspects behind it. The other thing is that it's going to be a movement that's pretty fun. Okay, you can really push yourself to a limit and then back off. That's why I like doing rep schemes of like 4 sets of 3 and then 2 sets of 12 to really get my heart rate going with this. And that exercise is going to be the trap bar deadlift, okay? So this movement that we're gonna use here, this is our sweet prototype trap bar deadlift bar, is going to be what we're doing here. We wanna focus with a little bit wider than shoulder width apart here, okay? We're gonna get that chest set and drive up fast. We wanna set that back right away. I'm gonna move over slightly here, okay? Slow down, good control. Boom, set that back, chest up, okay? Chest up. And the big factor here is that because of where the weight is loaded, it's going to be more of the back and more of the quads. When we're pulling a traditional deadlift, the weight's forward. So it's going to be drastically more focus on the hamstrings and still that lower back. But if you have issues with rounding too much, maybe your back hurts or something like that, and you have deadlifts, you can actually replace it with trap bar deadlifts. The other thing that you can do is you could do ramp up to a heavy set with the trap bar deadlift, and then you can do drop set work with technique work with a traditional deadlift. You can get really creative here. So I recommend doing trap bar deadlifts, once a week you can go pretty heavy, once a week you can do trap bar jumps, and that's also gonna help you be more explosive. So use this pretty consistently, and it's an excellent way to increase your max strength and to get more hypertrophic in those quads. Okay, another movement that you're not doing typically, okay? This is gonna be a movement that we wanna focus on hip mobility. We wanna focus on that trunk control, okay? So we're not wobbling all over the place. Dynamic trunk control is real. If we're all over the place while we're doing an exercise, we could blow our back out. Sorry, comments on the YouTube section, it is real, okay? So when we're doing exercises, if we can put ourselves into a position that heightens our awareness, that heightens our proprioception, that's gonna make our nervous system fire and recruit at a higher rate than if we're in a normal, stable scenario, okay? That's why I love using the Garage Strength single leg pad and the Garage Strength single leg roller. You can head over to garagestrength.com and pick up the single leg roller and pad today. Now, when we get into this movement, this is going to be a single leg goblet squat. Okay, so this is gonna be where we place this exercise. And if you use the Peak Strength app, you'll see this as an accessory for a lot of people. When we have general fitness clients come in, we might do this movement with really high reps because you can get a massive pump. You get that mobility that starts to improve throughout your hips. You improve with that really upright posture. And in turn, that transfers to better posture as you're walking and better breath control because now you learn how to hold your chest. Okay, so that's one of the big factors here with the goblet single leg squat. So we're here, put that back leg up, come down, touch the pad, drive back up. Boom, and we wanna keep that goblet nice and flat. I like to actually visualize having a glass of water on top of this so I can try and keep that as level as possible, okay? So we can go 12 on each leg. Really try and focus on that stability and improve that hip mobility. I really love this movement, not only for general fitness, also for elite level athletes, especially athletes that are endurance-based, distance runners, cyclists that are more long distance focused. It pays massive dividends in improving their hip mobility, their posterior chain, and in turn, their power output on the road. Another movement you're probably not doing, and it's not because you've never been exposed to this, it's because you're probably a baby, just like me. Okay, so when we're thinking about doing exercises to improve strength, hypertrophy, right? We want to use global movements. We want to use those compound movements, and we want to be able to do that with a heavier load. When we have a heavier load, now our body is aware of that load and we start to recruit a little bit better. In comes the back squat, okay? So this is a movement that if we just did 5 sets of 5 once a week on the back squat, we will get ridiculously strong. And we can do this for 3 to 4 years and really not have to change much, okay? But it's hard, it's complicated. Now, there's a couple key factors. When we're doing a back squat, we need to establish, I would typically go a little bit more narrow grip, high bar, okay? Especially for training for general fitness. There's no reason really to be going low bar, super wide stance. I would say, you could go low bar with a more narrow stance, but I would want to have someone in general fitness Train through those full ranges of motion. And this is where a couple of these little modifications that we're gonna give you, this is stuff that you can use. So if you are back squatting, you might not be doing some of these little variations. So really, I'm gonna give you about 3 or 4 exercises right now. Okay, so we also wanna focus on having that upright trunk. We don't wanna do a Dane Miller back squat at 240 kilos where I start to do a good morning back squat, okay? We wanna focus on driving with the quads, keeping that chest upright, having good hip mobility, having good ankle mobility, improving that dynamic trunk control. So, some of those variations of the back squat. First, we're just gonna go over typical back squat, right? Here, come down, drive with that chest up, okay? I wanna think hips pull through at the top. And when I do an eccentric motion here, I wanna think about knees are getting pulled forward and my hips are getting pulled back, okay? So I'm thinking hips back, knees forward, up, okay? So that's a big factor when we're thinking about squat technique. Now, I'm gonna give you a couple key variations. First, if we have a little bit of tendency to lean forward and we're a little bit stiff, we can do pauses in the hole. So we can pause in the hole. You could just use a barbell. You don't need to put a lot of weight on. Just use the bar. Start there, then put on 25s, then put on 45s. You know, build up easily. So again, pause, up. Now, if we have that mobility, we can add in something like this. Boom, boom, boom. That's typically what I would recommend if you want to focus on that stronger back and stronger quads. Double bounce. Up. And then finally, I'm gonna grab something quick here. I'm gonna walk over here, grab a box. If I'm someone who has a little bit of like issues in the deadlift, I have issues with a deadlift or maybe some back issues where I have a sticking point in my mid-range, I can use a box, come down here, okay? Slow, 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 sit, drive that chest up, okay? Let's do one more, sit, chest up, okay? That's another great variation. So when you're doing back squats, you can do 5 sets of 5 for the next 4 years, and you can cycle through those variations. You could go 1 week of double bounce, 1 week of pause, 1 week of back squat to a box, 1 week of traditional. Cycle through that, and that's going to lead to a tremendous amount of leg strength. All right, that last key exercise that you probably aren't doing, this one it might be because it's extremely hard. It's another one of those movements that we put ourselves in a little bit of a weird position. We can get really, really sore from it. We don't really like to load it too much because of that. It's hard, okay? So that's why we're avoiding it. Now, again, if you use our app, Peak Strength, it's inside of our app, and it's gonna help you get really, really strong. It's gonna help you be mobile, and even to a point where if you're an athlete, it's gonna help you with running speed and all of those things. So you should, 1, pick up Peak Strength, but also 2, do this exercise. This is going to be a walking dumbbell lunge, okay? So I like to use lunges where I have a weight that's not gonna force me to dump forward. A lot of people will do a lunge, and they get here and they sort of shoot that butt back. They wanna really lean into that posterior chain, which is great, but let's do it with a little bit better technique, okay? And I also believe that back knee should be just about touching the floor, but not entirely there. So here, I wanna have good hip mobility. If I touch the floor here, I'm gonna get right to that point. I'm gonna do that again, okay? Now, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a spin here. I like focusing on, let's say 2 forward, and then 2 backwards, okay? Using strength training movements backwards can really, really improve your overall balance and stability, and in turn, also your leg strength. If I have someone like myself who struggles with the quad strength, okay, I like using backward lunges because it actually drives with my quads a little bit more. It's gonna help strengthen my quads. It's gonna help strengthen my knees. Okay, so use dumbbell lunges. You could do 4 or 5 sets, 5 to 7 reps on each side. I recommend using dumbbells. You can also use a barbell, but in turn, lead to that better hip mobility. If you have athletes trying to strengthen their posterior chain, you might have an individual who's very quad dominant. Have them do more walking forward. Okay, you might have an individual like myself with really long legs. Have them do more walking backwards to target their quads, okay? So get creative with this accessory, and I would use this as a 3A or a 3B on a leg day, and you can even get to the point where you say, all right, we gotta do 10 lengths of the turf, and you got 10 minutes to get it done. You gotta hold 40-pound dumbbells, go. And you can just really blast those legs, get a nice pump, and lead to those serious hypertrophic gains. Having strong legs is extremely important for any athlete and anyone out there who's in fitness. Try these exercises today as you work on that swole life, trying to get a big quad pump, big glute pump, big hamstrings. All of those things play a massive role in your overall health and in sports performance. And if you need help with your sports performance or your overall general health, make sure you check out our brand new app, Peak Strength. Click on the link down below, head over to peakstrength.app where you're gonna get 7 free days of training. You can put in your goals, put in your specific ideas that you want to work towards. We periodize everything for you, and we even provide means of accountability through rest times and adding in those weights so we can understand and help you make progress as an individual. Don't forget to check out our other YouTube channel, Peak Strength, because remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.